Now, have you heard of the new traffic cameras? Okay, people have heard. Have you crossed the speed limit and have you received a notification telling you uko na fine ya kulipa? Have you paid the fine? Do you know that if you don't pay within the stipulated time, that fine starts accruing interest? Have you also heard that there are some Kenyans who've gone to court to say, this thing, no. It breaks very many things. There's a constitutional side of it, which denies me the opportunity for fair administrative justice. There's the other one of public participation. We did not come and tell us that we were going to have enforcement of speed limits using cameras and instant fines, and for us to give you input, and so on and so forth. We have invited the Director General of the National Transport and Safety Authority, Engineer Nashon Kondiwa, to be our guest. Good morning, Engineer.
Good morning, Eric.
Thank you very much for joining us. We know you are newly minted into this position.
Yeah, very new.
Very new. This is your second week in office.
Definitely, actually. Tomorrow is exactly 2 weeks since
What?
I came in.
What?
Yep.
Karibu.
Into the deep end.
Umekuja na moto.
I'm not so new in this sector. I've been working in NTSA for the last 7 years, so definitely
you have institutional memory.
Learn, a lot to learn from the reactions, especially what I'm seeing in public. I've been definitely just a background guy, just fixing internet, fixing systems. I was director IT at the organization, so I've not been into this public space, but here we are.
Very well. So you have been the guy who's been coming up with the plans, and now you've been told to implement your plan.
Definitely.
We shall talk about that plan. First, did you get the Jano? Alituma ile kitu?
Ile kitu.
Jano bado hajatutumia quote, but we shall give a quote later.
Yes.
We normally have, a quote of the day shared by Janet, who is away today, and then Mariam would have given you. But then let's begin. First of all, with hearing, there's a story that we aired on NTV last night, right? On NTV tonight, which was the reaction from the public and the fact that this matter has actually gone to court now. NTV spoke to some motorists. Some of them were saying, okay, well, it's a good thing that you are enforcing traffic regulations, especially with regards to speed. Others were saying, no, this enforcement and then the instant fine, that I'm supposed to pay an instant fine, it impacts my pocket directly.
Right.
Just take a listen to some of them. Some of them were actually PSV operators.
Kama saa hii gari inaweza pandisha shilingi 300 mpaka Wangige, alafu ifainiwe 5,000. Sili kumaliza gari na hatutakuwa na kazi huku.
Kama mnasema aende pole pole ndio asikatwe faini. Sasa itakuwa hiyo kukosa kukatwa faini atakuwa ameharibu kasi yake. Wote wakifanya hivyo biashara inaisha.
Ni jambo mzuri. Lakini sasa wangetuelimisha pia kidogo tujue hiyo mambo venye inakuwa.
When you hear that, especially the matatu drivers, sasa niende pole pole, itaharibu kazi. Niende pole pole ndio nisipigwe fine.
So, let me be honest, it sounds funny until you understand how the matatu business works, yeah? Owner wa gari akona minimum yake every day that they need to get from that car. What you make on top of that is what you take home, which explains why matatu drivers drive the way they do. I am not excusing it. Let me make it very, very clear. It's not an excuse. I am just giving context to how that business works. So, ukiambia mtu enda pole pole, it's like they're seeing their income. Ikipungua tu. How many laps was I able to do yesterday? Maybe 8. Today now I'll be able to do 7 or 6. I don't know if that's the truth, but again, not excusing, just contextualizing. But the Director General, reactions from Kenyans, especially those in the public service sector, public service vehicle sector. What do you think of those reactions?
Well, from where I see it, I think there's a deeper problem in the public transport than the fine system, because if you look at it, it's more or less the model we are operating.
Yes.
And the way our public service, public transport is organized. And this is, see, the fines are just made a big noise in the media, but there are larger and bigger transformations that we are looking at that is aimed at addressing the crisis that we have in public transport systems. One of the roles of NTSA is management of public transport systems in the country. And this is where we are talking about what kind of investment are we making in this public transport? Who are really the investors in this sector? Who are employed in this sector? Are they really having a decent employment? This idea of hiring people in the morning, giving them target is a symptom of a fundamental problem. It's a fundamental problem of a disorganized public transport. This is something that the cameras cannot fix. This is something the fines cannot fix. But we have a clear collaboration arrangement with transport operators. Actually, these are the group of people that I first met when I became the DG. I met them in the first week. And our agreement was very simple. Let us transform this sector to attract better investment, to have better operational model, to have better financial model, something sustainable, and even a decent transport. If you go to other cities across the world, if they don't move around the city the way we move around the city, there's a huge difference. So this one is actually a symptom of a deeper problem. We want to repackage public transport to attract better investment, to have better jobs, because that's part of a regulatory role of NTSA. As a regulator in an industry, it is our job to make sure that the people working in that industry have a predictable income, are better employed, they have better working conditions, and finally the people that we serve, the public, have decent, reliable, and efficient mode of transport. This is one of our jobs. And this one is going to be fixed not by cameras, but by changing the way we arrange. Maybe it's the time to change the way we arrange transport. Maybe the circle model is not working.
DG, we have had that conversation from NTSA, from the Ministry of Transport, for more than a decade. The fact is we don't have a public transport system in this country. We have a private run system in the country that is mass rapid transport. Now, we shall have another conversation around how to do the PSV sector. But today, let's talk about the issue of the speed. And I think it's important for us to take a step back into, you're implementing something that was also contained in a report by the National Council on the Administration of Justice, okay? And we remember seeing in the news when the president was receiving this report from NCAJ and then saying, when do we start implementing some of these things? Why this particular route of instant fines? What's the rationale behind it, behind instant fine?
Eric, this falls within a very large space of what we call safe systems approach in road safety. Safe systems approach talks about how do we make every single component of transport be designed to provide safety on the road. And here we are talking about 3 E's of safety. We're talking of enforcement, we're talking of engineering, we're talking of education. The 3 E's. Now, the instant fines falls under what we call enforcement model. And the practice that we have seen across the world is that enforcement work if there is certainty. Enforcement work if there is predictability of what will happen. Enforcement work if it is consistent. Like whatever will happen today will happen tomorrow, will happen next month. And clarity on what happens if I do this. So the consequences, action versus consequences, must be clearly predictable.
Right.
Okay? Now, that is the only way enforcement works. And what we have seen happening, and this is not something very new in Kenya, by the way. In 2016, a law was passed modifying the Traffic Act, Section 117, which talks about instant fines. Okay? 2016 to date is 10 years down the line. Okay? I know Kenya, we like talking, and we talk a lot. And we blame. If you look at the media, you'll see that NTSA has done this. When we talk about the numbers, NTSA has done this, NTSA has done this, NTSA has not done this. So the problem is action.
True.
Bringing the instant fine rule into action has been missing for 10 years.
Yeah.
And the important fact that we need to understand is that every year we are losing to the economy, according to our raw data, is about 400 billion annually. The economy is losing 400 billion annually. According to the World Bank, we are losing 860 billion annually. In fact, if we use the World Bank
This
report,
is losing from corruption?
no,
From
the impact of deaths.
Okay.
Okay, the impact of deaths. If you look at the burden on the health sector, if you look at the burden on the families, if you look at the burden on the people who are injured and have to be with these permanent injuries for long.
Right.
Now, and the fact that the number of people who are dying are mostly people between the age 25 and 40. This is the most active economically, the most active group economically. Now, if we combine all these factors, you realize there's a need for urgency, and a conversation that goes for 10 years is not sustainable.
Yeah.
And over the 10 years, things have also changed. Even technology have changed.
True.
And therefore, this is what brings us to where we are today. I want to tell you that this is not a concept that was conceived yesterday. This is a concept that was conceived in 2020. Okay?
Okay.
In 2020 is when we said, okay, I think we really need to have a different way of handling these offenses, especially the ones that are not criminal in nature.
Yeah.
I know there are a bit of laws that need to be fixed here and there to make sure that the traffic offenses are majority administratively handled. But most of the times, technology runs ahead of the laws.
Yeah.
If you look at M-Pesa, where were the laws around M-Pesa when M-Pesa was introduced?
It's true.
Actually, the laws followed
Caught
the
up.
M-Pesa.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm very happy with the kind of conversation going on right now because it triggers everyone now to act. I actually saw the speaker talking about this, which means that the National Assembly will consider changing a few laws to make this more efficient. So the action that we took to create this noise, and it's happening at the time that I'm just starting to be my job at NTSA. I think it's a good thing. For me, I'm extremely happy with what is going on. And I really want this to succeed. Yeah.
We'll go into the challenges, the constitutionality and all of that, like the court case against these instant fines. But let's begin with just rolling them out. Let's see what they look like on the roads. What speed limits exist where? What cameras will exist where? What fines will there be for road infractions? Like it's a long thread, but let's start with what are the traffic limits on our highways and our roads, right? The speed limits on our roads, and then from there we can now go into the fines and the cameras and where they'll be.
And the speed limits, if I start from there, the speed limits are dynamic, and they are based on, if I just mention two factors. One is the design of the road.
Yes.
Like if a road is really winding, there's maximum speed that you can do, otherwise you roll.
Yes.
So these are some of the factors that are considered, the design of the road. The other one is the land use. If the area is populated, then definitely the chances of collision between the vehicle and the human being are much higher. And therefore, the speed is changed. That's the reason why when you approach a settled environment, you are told slow the speed, and you actually see the speed limit sign. So the speed limit sign will be defined by those two major factors, among others. Now, when it comes to placement of cameras,
just before you get there, on our highways, what are the speed limits?
That's what I've mentioned. On the highways, the speed limits differ from one section of the road to the other.
True.
And the type of highway as well.
And the type of highway.
Yes.
There's some that goes up to 110. There's some that are 100. There's some up to 80. There's some that we limit up to 50. Some town centers we even do 20. So it is dynamic.
Okay.
It is not fixed.
The maximum though being 110.
110. But you see, depending on, the engineering of the roads also differ. If you look at some countries that have really done good in engineering their roads, like Germany, for example, their roads are relatively very straight and they are engineered for higher speed.
Yes.
So they can do up to 200 kilometers per hour.
The Autobahn.
Yeah. So if you look at Kenyan situation, sometimes we don't have enough money to make the road that straight.
Yeah.
Okay? Because again, cost is a factor. Now, because of that, our speed limits cannot be the same as the speed limits for Germany.
Okay, so the practical here is that there is no road that will have a constant speed limit.
No.
Right? So let's take a dual carriageway. The maximum speed limit on a dual carriageway, if it's on a straight stretch with no hill, no winding, no town, will be 110 kph.
Yes, again, engineers, road engineers, definitely determine this.
They'll determine that.
Yes, because it's engineering.
But like
decision.
from Nairobi to Thika, or the end of the Thika superhighway, going all the way to, actually it goes all the way to Kenol to Kenomarua, but let's just do Nairobi to Thika. Nairobi to Thika, that road, the maximumest speed that you can go there, allowable by law, is 110. Okay? And then depending on where you are, it'll keep coming down to 100 to 80.
Yeah.
Now, the question is, do we know where I can do 110 and where I can do 100, where I can do 80?
We do know.
Who determines that?
And the speed signs are there. Okay? And I tell you, there are some areas where there has been vandalism. And this is another problem. For every single road, there are speed signs. But there have been elements of vandalism that has destroyed some of these speed signs.
So
we are working with the road authorities.
We are dealing with the present. Cameras are on the road now, today as we speak, right now.
Yes.
Dealing with the present, Engineer Kondiwa, because you're a Kenyan, just like all of us, you will agree with us that we do not have sufficient road signage telling us the speed limits.
But Eric,
now, will you agree or will you not agree?
I know they are not sufficient, but every single place these cameras are placed.
Okay, so now we are coming to the cameras.
There is a speed limit.
So we are coming to the cameras. First, the point is, I do not know at what point I'm supposed to slow down or then go back to the maximum limit on very many roads in this country, on very many roads.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
Now you've introduced the speed cameras. And you're saying that these speed cameras, unlike before where we had police officers hiding under trees
in a bush
and in a bush somewhere and saying, "Oh, I'm a petition." Now you're saying that these cameras are visible. True. They're visible. Where the camera is there a sign that tells me there's a camera here and this is the speed you should be driving at?
The speed, there are two communications here. One communication is your speed is being monitored. Okay?
Okay.
The other communication is this road, this is the speed limit. And that's your question.
Yes.
Are we having this in place?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, this is part of the rollout that we are doing. For every camera we are fixing, one, we must make sure the speed limit sign is there. It's part of the package of what we are rolling out. And second, when we reach a threshold of around 100 cameras fixed, we'll be clearly telling Kenyans that now you are entering the speed zone. Even without that particular communication, the speed limit signs are already there. Those two are supposed to achieve the same thing. They are supposed to tell you that you are supposed to lower the speed. This is the maximum for your safety. And the second one is to tell you that, look, we are watching you in this section of the road. If you if you speed beyond this limit, you will pay the consequences. Okay?
Let me ask a basic question.
Yes.
I'm assuming this signage comes before the camera, letting you...
No, it's part of the rollout. But the sign for the speed limit on the road before the camera, I'm telling you, it's there.
But we've just agreed we have vandalism issues. We have on our major highways,
but they're
especially.
not all vandalized. You see, this is
true.
one thing that
It's
we need
true.
to agree.
They're not all vandalized.
They're not all vandalized. You see, we are putting this
there are situations where there's no speed limit that is visible. There might have been one that was put up a while ago. There is no speed limit that is visible. There's nothing saying this is 50, this is 80, this is 110, right? But then a camera comes there and people are flying past and it's just fines.
No, but
fines,
is it right
fines.
to say that there are no speed limit signs?
There are. I am saying there are situations where there are none.
There are situations, and I can tell you that every single speed camera that we have set up, we have made sure that the speed limit sign is there.
Okay.
We are going to take a break. When we come back, there's a bit of a graphic here. Some people have made this, this kind of graphic, and we're going to just put it on air. We've showed it to you, and you've said it looks fairly accurate to what we have. Yeah. We look at where speed limits, speed cameras are, and the speed limits, and then we ask ourselves whether we actually have actual signage that tells you you're supposed to be driving at this speed at this section of the road. 27 minutes after 7, we're having a conversation with engineer Nashon Kondiwa. He is the new Director General of the NTSA, the National Transport and Safety Authority. We are talking about these instant fines. Is it fine? Is it justice? Back in a moment.
Thank you so much, George. You're a fixer. Thank you for reminding us that marriage can work. I think that is your way of encouraging people that everything can work. It is possible. And that's a really, really good message to have on a nice morning. Thank you for that message. Hashtag is Fixing the Nation NTV. And of course, you can send us your WhatsApp Nation video to 0769 590 762. That's 0769 590 762. It's at the bottom of your screen right now. Send us your WhatsApp Nation. Tell us who you are, where you are, what you're doing to fix the nation. If you're observing the speed limit where you are, okay? Tuambie. We'd like to see.
Do you know the speed limit of the section? You know, it keeps changing, like the DG has told us. The ukiwa hapa speed limit 50. Is 80. Ukienda pale ni 110. Ukienda inarudi 80. Do you know where you are, what the speed limit is? And where are you supposed to? Now, that's what the people are saying even here in Engineer on Feedback. Mukohu Waere says, have they clearly marked the roads and installed speed limit signs? And he writes that in caps, just to show how much he wants to stress this point.
Right.
Samson Aboke says, cashless will solve the public transport, and Ma3 app is fixing that by paying the drivers and bus conductors, paying the target of bus owners, and making the public transport operate seamlessly. He was talking about the reforms on the PSV sector. Zandem says, just put speed limit signs after every 1 kilometer like other developed countries. How are you supposed to know? Some, there are no speed signs. For example, Nairobi to Ngong, Nairobi to Mombasa, Emali to Loitoktok, just a few. Francis Odhiambo, good morning, fixers. The DG has mentioned the 3 E's. Why is the regulator rushing to the 3rd E of enforcement without ensuring that engineering and education have been done? Fix the roads and fix the signs. Mark Kilonzo, good morning, fixers. Bona DG Kondiwa has good intentions with the automated speeding penalties, but NTSA and its partner agencies have not catered for the following. And Mark was continuing there. Easy fines payment process. KCB is not ideal when we have e-citizen and M-Pesa. Right? He says, take care of such kind of issues. Intercivic, from diaspora comments, engineers, civil engineers, the city chief engineer, what's wrong with you all? All cities are flooded.
City roads, yes.
All city roads are flooded. The one for Job Njiro.
I hope the priority of installing speed cameras and the propagation of instant fines is also supreme in other sports where road carnage is common in other areas of the country, not just in the city. So a lot of reactions there. Let me begin with the fixer who asked, mbona kwa hizi 3 E's tumeanza na enforcement? Yes, that is Francis Odhiambo. He says, yeah.
Where's engineering and education?
We've started with enforcement. Where's engineering and education?
You see, it's only that the instance fines or enforcement is the one we are talking about in the media as we speak. But there's a lot we are doing on the engineering side. Even as we speak, we are developing what we call IRAP, International Road Assessment Program, in which we are going to map every single road section and determining the risk level. In other words, we are checking, is it safe for pedestrian? Is it safe for the vehicle users, the motorists? Is it safe for cyclists? Is it safe for motorcyclists? And that star rating is going to determine the kind of treatment that we are going to give the road.
Right.
And this is what we call, that's this part of what I started by saying, safe systems approach, where the engineering, by the way, I believe there are so many accidents that are caused by the status of the road network and the vehicle infrastructure. If you look at also on the vehicle engineering as well, we are actually going to revamp all the vehicle inspection centers. Literally what we are doing as inspection as we speak right now, and the Kenyans will be very annoyed with this, there's no inspection we are doing, I have to admit. We have to do proper vehicle inspection, automated, science-based, and something that makes sure that we have determined the roadworthiness of the vehicle. So there's a lot going on. The only issue is that the enforcement have come into the surface. Why? Because it's touching on people's pocket, maybe.
And it goes into more people, more users. Let's take a look at this graphic on the road.
Before going to the graphic, can you react to Zandem and Sam? Zandem was saying, just put speed limit signs after every 1 kilometers like other developed countries. How are you supposed to know? Sam was saying there are no speed signs, for example, from Nairobi to Ngong, Nairobi, Mombasa, Emali to Loitoktok, etc.
Yeah, this is what I mentioned is part of the rollout. Part of the rollout of this whole project. This project is going to have 1,000 speed cameras fixed on our roads. And part of the scope of the rollout is just to make sure that everyone knows the speed limits. So it's a project. It's not an event.
Right.
It's a project that is going to, the complete rollout is going to take 3 years to complete the rollout.
So,
and combined with what I mentioned about the road infrastructure as a component of road safety, the road design, the engineering component, we are going to make sure that every single road component is communicating with the road users. The road is supposed to explain itself to the road users. It's supposed to tell you, now you are going to go down a steep hill. Next, it's supposed to tell you, you are going to climb. Here, your limit is this and all that. So there is a bigger work we are doing with Kenha, Kura, Kera, and all these road agencies to just make sure that every single contract that is signed for maintaining the road also include these other road safety components. That means including even the ability of the road to communicate to road users. It's not just the speed limit.
Engineer, I know you're an ICT engineer. I've always I never shy away from just rubbishing all these road agencies. Kenha, Kura, Kera. Because the engineers who design these roads and the engineers who supervise the construction of these roads have let this country down. The reason why we're talking about we don't have the road communicating with the people is that there's an engineer who has failed, and let's not call it anything else. An engineer has failed to ensure that his road is communicating to the intended user, including users on 2 wheels and on foot. Our engineers have failed, which brings the question, which somebody who's asking here. So it brings in the issue of fair trial. Mark Kilonzo, if there's no signage on the road, if the road is not communicating to me, if I do not know that I'm supposed to be driving at 80 on this section, I've just encountered a new sign that tells me 80, and then there's a camera, and already the camera has captured me that I was at 110, I'm supposed to have slowed down to 80, now I have done, maybe I've even started slowing down, but I'm at 90. 90 is 10 kph above the limit. I am going to be fined. How much is it? Is it 5,000? We're going to show that. We're going to see that graphic. This is not logical. It's not justice.
Eric, you're right to an extent. But I have just mentioned that this whole program is just not for cameras. This whole program include fixing the road furniture that we are talking about. So every camera, and I repeat this, every camera will be accompanied by this kind of communication. But again, if we look at it in terms of justice, who is providing justice for these people dying on the road? Just the other day, we had a truck ramming into a huge a number of people, and 15 people dead. Now, that is somebody If he had just slowed down a little, we will not be talking about 15 funerals.
Slowed down from what to what?
Like that kind of truck.
Okay.
If the truck was just going around 80 kilometers per hour or less, I am very sure that he could have noticed the differences on the road and the brakes could have worked.
Engineer, this is a problem with our enforcement agencies, right? We are quick to condemn without being quick to accept some failures on our part. Again, I come back to the engineers in charge of that road and the agency in charge of that road. That road not well lit.
Right.
That road not properly marked. Yes, there's some marking on the road, but at night this is not reflective.
It's not reflective.
So you will not see it. We don't even know whether this truck was moving at above 80 kph. Let's even say it was moving at 80 kph and it has tried to slow down to 50. Ramming onto people at 50 will cause death. You agree with that?
Yeah, I agree.
So we can't say, if that guy had slowed down a little bit, let's just accept that our engineers have failed us on our roads. Again, the issue is, should we not start by ensuring first our roads are fine and are done, to everything that you're saying, the rollout. Roll out everything else. Roll out education, roll out proper signage, roll out everything, roll out the cameras and just say these cameras are just to show you, for example, how this thing will be working before you roll out fines. Because right now, this morning, people are getting fined and they have no education, there's no signage, there's suddenly a road that I've been driving on and I've been assuming it's between this section and the next section is 110. Kumbe, it has slowed down to 80. There was no signage.
The collaborations you're talking about.
Let me put it this way.
With Kura, Kera, Kenha,
and
all
that
of
is
them.
the collaboration that is.
Yes.
We have just mentioned about what we are doing.
Again, before the fact. So that, as Eric is saying, by the time these speed cameras are going live and people are receiving notifications on their phones to get a fine, it is where an infraction is clear and not almost manufactured. It is where I was on a well-lit road at night, clearly marked, demarcated, with clear speed limits, and I was above the speed limit. And then I get a fine. It's like, you know what, Mariam? You messed up. Lipa 500, lipa 1,000, lipa however much it was.
Enforcement comes at the end.
Mariam, it's not a dependency. It's not one before the other. It is all this is working together to provide safety. So yes, I mentioned that the E for enforcement is the one that we are having a lot of noise in the media. But I can assure you, there's a lot of work going on in the engineering elements. There's a lot that we have initiated. I've just mentioned IRAP, and I've mentioned dividing every road section. In fact, we are talking about around 2 to 3 kilometers road section treatment to make sure that we know exactly the characteristics of each of these sections of the road. And there's a work that is going on. We have an active working group that is transforming this. So it's a combined transformation. Education is nearly what NTSA has done for the last 5-6 years. Actually, since we were told get out of the road, and I think that was a mistake anyway. But from that time to date, NTSA has done a lot of education. We have told people what to do, how to behave on the road, how to make sure that they are safe on the road. But is this enough? I don't know. But the thing is, the result is not there. The numbers are going up, which means there are certain levers that we have to press a little harder as we speak, because we have pressed the lever of education too hard. But maybe there's a problem in the E of enforcement. But we are looking at it as a holistic thing. We are not just doing the enforcement and leaving the rest.
Because of time, I want to move because we could really spend so much time on which E comes before E, which other E. But let's take a look at, for example, the graphic that had the fines themselves, how much for what speed infraction, and you tell us if this is correct. If it's 0 to 5 kilometers above the speed limit, I believe, then that's a warning. Then 5 to 10 kilometers above the speed limit, that's a fine of 500 Kenya shillings, and it goes on increasing, with how far above the speed limit you are. Is that correct, Director General?
Yep,
okay.
that's correct.
And this is in law?
Yeah, that's in law.
This is not something that NTSA just came
that
up
is in
with
law.
this week.
Since 2016.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then there was also the graphic that showed where the speed cameras will be on major highways around Nairobi.
Yep.
So we'll also pull that up, Phil, and to have a look at where exactly the speed cameras will be or where they are. What's making you giggle? Is it fine? The question, is it fine? Yeah?
It's fine. I mean, honestly, if somebody decided to locate these cameras, because we are not hiding them,
Yeah, okay.
and did these graphics to show where they are, it's okay.
So let's start there. The southern bypass, the virtual way bridge on the Kikuyu side of the southern bypass, and also at the Ngong interchange, a speed limit of 80 kilometers per hour. That's correct.
That's correct. But this area is mostly 110.
Yeah. Somebody's
So
saying here.
It's missing some.
Brian is
part.
actually saying, ask the
Yes,
engineer
generalizing.
who thought it reasonable that within a 300-meter stretch along the southern bypass, the virtual way bridge side, there's a speed limit of 110, then to a speed camera zone of 80 without a speed sign. Because somebody says that they got actually the notification that you are speeding on the southern bypass and you should have been on 80.
It's the section of the southern bypass that they were in. I mean, there's certain sections that there's a bend. There's certain sections that is straight. So yes, the speed limit in southern bypass changes depending on where you are.
I have very many questions here of people asking about the expressway.
Yes.
The speed limit on the expressway at 80 kph. People are just explain the logic of having an expressway which is fairly flat and straight with few bends, and the bends are not sharp bends, being 80 kph.
Again, I'm a telco engineer, electrical, to be specific. And I think the road engineers really who designed this road and who constructed it know the dangers that you face if you drive on that road beyond 80 kilometers. And maybe I will also challenge them to explain to me much deeper in a more easy way to understand, because this is a very complex matter. Because they're looking at the forces, the curves, and you know, you can possibly fly out of that expressway. Maybe the engineers know. Just like Nithi Bridge. In Nithi Bridge, it kills a lot of people, but the designers there said if you go beyond 60 kilometers, you will actually not make the curve. But who are we? Even with speed sign, we go 80 kilometers per hour, we go 100 kilometers per hour, and we fly out of the bridge. Now, this, okay, it's just my opinion. Again, I'm not a road engineer. I've never designed any road. But that is the science behind these speed limits.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just a quick pause, because speaking of Nithi Bridge, it's being redesigned at a cost of 7 billion shillings, right? And it's one of the things that has been like a killer, what's it called, a black spot for such a long time. And historically, we've seen a simple redesign of black spots changes things massively. So that's why we'll go back and forth, but we'll always end up at where is the other two E's of education and engineering. But let's go into the enforcement of these fines now. So 0 to 5 kilometers are warning, 5 to 10 kilometers are 500 shilling fines if you're 5 to 10 kilometers per hour above the speed limit, and so on and so forth as the infraction goes higher. How do we enforce this? Do I get a text? Do I get an email? How do I pay? And then we'll get into now the other modalities of exactly where this money is going. But how is it enforced?
How it's enforced is you get a notification, and the notification is giving you an option. I know there was some error in the SMSs that have been sent, I think, the first day, which was not giving an option whether to pay or to deny. Because you have the option of paying or saying, okay, I don't agree with this, in which case you go to court. But you can go ahead, accept, and pay.
Okay.
So you get this notification via SMS.
Okay.
Yeah.
Easy as that. And there's a link that allows you to pay.
Yes.
Is there a USSD as well?
The approach, you know, I'm a telco guy.
Yes.
But I've also been a product manager.
Yes.
Actually, I was more of a marketing guy for some time. with Orange Business Service. Now, when you are introducing a totally new product to the market, you really have to look at all the possible risks of miscommunication and the risk of misrepresentation, especially if it is targeting a mass market. Now, the approach we have taken is that the number of people that will be fined when the cameras are just being rolled out, maybe when there are just still 10 cameras or 20 cameras, the number of people that will be fined is not that high. And therefore, and the other thing is that we have not communicated the mechanics of this, because people have not learned a lot about the whole product and how it works. That really makes it possible for them to understand when they're being defrauded. Because if you are keen in December, there were so many SMSs that were talking about traffic fines and we were doing nothing. Okay?
True.
Now, you want to make this process foolproof from these fraudsters until people get acquainted with that product. Now, this is the reason why we chose the KCB branches and KCB agents as the first point of payments before we roll out the mass. We are looking at a threshold of around 100 cameras and deeper communication, like the conversation that is going on, so that people understand this is the URL for paying the fine and this is a fake one. Now, with that, once the people have that deeper communication, we'll roll out as M-Pesa. This country is a country of M-Pesa.
So as it stands right now, to pay the fine, I have to go to a KCB agent.
Yes, or bank. And they're everywhere. And we have 7 days. In fact,
7 days is a very short time.
It's a long time. And you must not be the one paying it. As long as you have somebody, you can send somebody to go pay it.
So that's the plan as we do the rollout.
Yes, it's a strategic approach. It's not like a zero-sum game where we are saying, okay, it's only KCB and forever. No, it's a strategic approach.
So there's
just
no
to make sure
payment
that these fraudsters are kept away.
No payment via M-Pesa. There's not
For now.
an M-Pesa number for now.
For now.
If you receive any message that tells you pay via this
Please
number,
avoid it.
Or hit this link and pay.
Or
Please
hit a link.
avoid it. That is a fraud.
Those are mulot boys. Okay. Now, where is this money going?
The money is going into an escrow account that is co-owned or co-managed between the government through NTSA and Kenya Commercial Bank. KCB.
But then there's a third partner here. There's a technology partner. This technology partner, and you've seen the conversations online and even in the public domain, the identification of your partners in the rollout of this. How was it done? How did you arrive at this particular partner? Was it a privately initiated proposal? Was it a publicly advertised proposal?
The thing is, our partner is KCB. That is the lead partner. And KCB has technology partners around it. So there's a joint venture. And this has historical reasons. It is stemming from the initial contract that was signed between NTSA and PesaPrint in a national bank. Of course, they had a technology partner called PesaPrint in 2015 for smart DL rollout. Okay? And the DL revenue actually goes all of it to the exchequer. So the National Treasury was supposed to fund this. But every time you acquire a driving license in this country, even as we speak, it goes directly to exchequer, and that money never comes back to NTSA. So we depend on the exchequer. We depended on the exchequer to fund this project because they are the ones getting the money. The funding of this project was not sufficient, and therefore the rollout of Smart DL is really a big mess. As we speak, we don't even have the capacity to give people driving license instantly.
So if we wanted
But there are so many Kenyans that,
essentially, if we wanted to move everyone with the old DL to the new one,
it will not be possible because of the underfunding. And again, it's all because the revenue generated from NTSA all goes to exchequer and never comes back. So there was a question, what do we do? And we were advised that exchequer is not in the process of funding capital projects of this nature. And therefore, what do we do? The technology was quite perfect. It's working very well. The systems are working perfectly well. They don't break down. How do we find it then? that is when there was a request, and it followed all the processes, that do we convert this from a procurement process, contractual process, to a different model that makes sure that at least we tap into private sector fund to fund this program, so that we can at least make the life of people a bit easy. Because right now, even as we sit here, there is probably a Kenyan who is being told, produce this money so that you can get your DL. And this is what it translates to. And the corruption that you talk about in NTSA in acquiring DL is all about this. So what do? We initiated that proposal. We actually requested the PPP to see if we can rearrange it to be a PPP.
Okay.
And of course, with the same partners. So when National Bank was acquired by Access Bank, KCB took it over. Okay, because KCB literally owned National Bank before Access Kenya. So Access decided that we don't need this. KCB took it over, and KCB is funding this. Again, all the processes around PPP were followed. So if you look at it, it was a mutual discussion between NTSA and these partners, so that it was not a privately initiated nor a public, but a public procurement or PPP with competitive bidding, but it was something mutually agreed.
So you're saying that this is not a new PPP. It is conversion of an old partnership into a new arrangement
of funding,
bigger partnership, with more funding, with a bigger scope, because the initial scope was digital driving licenses. Now the scope is also rollout of speed cameras. Everything here sounds like a new project.
Everything sounds like a new project, but if you look at it in the larger scope of the transport management, and especially the DLs, the enforcement elements, it's really actually have dots connecting.
Okay. We're completely out of time. I don't know if we can just have 10 extra minutes with the DG, or we do a part two, just 10 extra minutes to answer some of the burning questions. And then we'll hopefully have put the conversation to bed, or at least answered the elephants in the room as far as the rollout of these instant fines. Hashtag is Fixing the Nation NTV. We'll be right back after this. If you have any questions around the rollout of instant fines by the NTSA around Nairobi highways and Kenya as a whole, let us know. We'll be right back. As far as matters education are concerned. But let's get back into our conversation with the Director General of the National Transport and Safety Authority, Nashon. We were getting into this PPP, collaboration. What was the word you used for it?
It's PPP.
It's PPP, yes? Okay.
Finally, it's PPP.
It's PPP.
Yeah,
After
the beginning of the conversation is what was a mixed setting.
Okay.
But it's a PPP.
Okay. Yeah. Let's go into the revenue share in this PPP.
Yeah, because of the infrastructure requires, the investment required, and given government is not putting any money, we are talking about 60 to 40, where 60 goes to the investors, 40 is divided between NTSA and the exchequer.
So 60 goes to the investor, 20 to the exchequer, 20 to the NTSA. For how long? Is this indefinite, or is it until this investor recoups their investment?
The PPP period is 21 years.
Is 21 years the amount of time it will take them to recoup their investment, or is it an arbitrary number?
Of course, they have to recoup their investment and make some money. You know, you don't take your billions, put it somewhere, and fail to make some money. You have to make money. These are business people. KCB is a bank that is a profit making. It has shareholders, and therefore they have to make some money. So definitely they will make money.
Yes, my question is more so what informed the 21-year period, because the 60-40 split makes sense as they're recouping their investments, and yes, there is of course a profit margin to be made at some point, but what informed 21 years?
These items are based on the financial model and the fact that, you see, once you start fining people, people start behaving, okay? And when they start behaving, actually the NTSA objective is to get zero revenue, because it's zero revenue, it means that
Zero
people are
infraction.
behaving, and we have achieved our objective. So there's a projection that this revenue will keep going down over time. And with that, you really cannot have the model of business where the revenue and the profit keep going up. So you can't put it in the normal financial model that you use when you talk about the products that you can keep adding its features, making more profit. You can't do that in this model. And with that model, the basic calculation for these people to accrue back their investment, remember we are talking about managing 1,000 sites across the country. That investment, civil works, equipment, maintaining them, putting calibration infrastructure and all that, and then maintaining them for that number of years. Now, this is what was used to calculate the 21-year period.
So let me just ask a couple of questions, because you said this has, gone through due process, right? Previously, the kind of arrangement that you had with the company Pesaprint, which is the technology provider, was with, just a direct arrangement between
It's a procurement.
NTSA,
It was a competitive procurement process.
procurement, where you had Pesaprint with their partner, the National Bank then. Now you've decided that you've looked at their technical capacity, and you are the director of ICT. You've looked at their technical capacity and have seen these guys are doing a good job. They know what they're doing. They understand how to roll out a program. Then you decide, let's go on to a PPP. Number one question, was the Attorney General's advice sought on transferring from direct procurement into a public-private partnership model?
And the answer is emphatically yes. In fact, we have Attorney General representative resident in in NTSA, and is the witness to the final agreement.
Okay.
Yeah.
Second one, was the PPP directorate advice sought?
Yes.
When it comes to PPP, the PPP directorate
Very much.
has got to look
Actually, they
at
guided
the entire model.
the whole process. We were with them throughout the process. Yeah.
So what did they look at?
Basically, you see, for PPP, they guide the process that just the way the PPRA does, but with them they are more involved because these are very complex approach. So they are more involved. They actually give you personnel to walk you through what you do at each stage, from the initial idea, the feasibility study, the evaluation process, and even the contract agreement discussions and negotiations. They are part of the whole process, just to make sure that the basic principle in public finance management, because in the long run, these things have impact on public finance.
They do.
The basic principle of value for money is realized.
Okay.
So they were with us, and they have been with us throughout.
So what you're saying is that there is documentation on record from the PPP directorate. First of all, looking at, there are three options of going into a PPP model. One, privately initiated proposal comes to you.
Yeah.
Or two, you advertise and ask for bids. Or three, you determine to go just directly to a single-sourced bidder. And the PPP directorate looked at your single-sourced bidding, and they said, it's fine. And the Attorney General also said, this single-source bidding is fine.
On
You're
record.
saying it's not, that is on record.
Yeah.
Then you're also saying that the PPP directorate looked at the finance and the business model that's being presented here by Pesaprint, and they looked at the costs, the scope of work, the period that is proposed for recouping, and they said, this cost of 42 billion shillings to roll out 1,000 cameras and to continue offering digital driving licenses and to recoup this for 21 years, this is above board.
Yes, the journey has been with them and as a team, from Attorney General, PPP, and NTSA. And there are records to this effect. And we may not have a document saying the financial plan is perfect, the scope of work is perfect. We may not have those single documents, but the approval saying we have given a go for this particular kind of work.
Right.
Literally approve the scope, approve the timelines, approve the budget, approve the financial model, approve the designs and everything.
Okay. And the National Treasury is also okay with a 60-40 revenue split.
The national
Where 60%
the national
of
treasury,
all the fines that are generated on the roads using this platform will be going to this entity, and the 40% coming to government entities. The National Treasury is fine with that.
I want to put it clear. PPP is a directorate under National Treasury.
Yes.
So PPP Secretariat Directorate approving this
Yes.
is Treasury approving it.
Yes.
But we also have a direct approval from the PS National Treasury approving the same. Of course, I don't know whether I'm just a technology guy, and I may not deep into finances.
Yeah.
But maybe somebody will suggest a different thing, that the model may have worked better this way, or government could have better off taking 50%. But remember, we are talking about a project that is largely underfunded by the same treasury. Okay.
Yes.
A project that has frustrated Kenyans for 10 years. Kenyans can't get driving licenses. We are talking about a project that have impact in reducing the economic impact of road fatalities. That is currently costing 450 billion annually.
All right.
So from where I sit as an ordinary Kenyan, I think that it makes sense. But any financial analysts and investment experts and economists will argue a different thing.
Yeah.
Maybe lawyers will argue a different thing. But from where I sit, managing road safety, managing the issuance of driving licenses in NTSA, I should have done this yesterday.
Okay. Yeah. It's a win. Thank you so much. That is Nashon Kondiwa, who is the Director General of the National Transport and Safety Authority. We've been discussing the instant fines. Are they instant justice? In the next hour, we'll be speaking to MP Molo and Chair of the Finance Committee, that is Kuria Kimani, on the National Infrastructure Fund. But let's just look at some of your feedback on YouTube. Quite a bit going on. Don't appreciate good things. This is one way of dealing with corruption. We are bad-mannered as Kenyans on our roads. Let's stop pretending that we don't know our speed limits on the roads. This is Brian Adede also saying E for education. We should have been covered in driving school. Road signs are necessary, but drivers shouldn't be learning to interpret them on the road. The enforcement is long overdue. Okay. The Navigator says most road markings in white and yellow are not reflective at all at night. What are you doing as NTSA to make sure that road markings are made with the right paints? That's incredibly true, by the way. It's visible during the day. At night is a different story. And that's just, oh my gosh, that's so true.
It's the thing I keep saying. Engineers. There's an engineer who actually understands the quality of paint that's required to make this thing reflective at night.
Right.
That engineer can see, because they're inspecting the construction and the painting of the road. The engineer approves that this road is done. And that engineer knows that this road is not done to the quality it ought to have been. That engineer does not deserve to be in office today.
That it's really crazy when you think about it. Job Mwenda says, just to be safe, what is the safe speed limit to avoid fines? Just to be safe, what is the safe speed limit to avoid fines? So I don't know if there is a just to be safe, because as the engineer was telling us, the limits move from place to place. So there are zones where it could be 50, there are places where it could be 80, there are places it could be 110. So again, it's not up to you to figure out, let me stay below 80, it could be a 50 zone. You could say, let me stay below 50, it could be a 40 zone. So it's just that signage is needed. It needs to be clear what the speed limit here is, because you can't avoid entirely. There's no way to know unless you drive at 10 kph, in which case you're being a nuisance now to other road users.
Just get off the road.
Is there a link and evidence and is there a link of the evidence and the location of where the speeding took place? Kuna picha. That's I think that
when you tell me you were speeding.
Yes. Is there a picture of the vehicle in
Kuna evidence kwa karatasi.
yes, and then the speed limit and what speed I was going at that time. I think that would be the real transparency.
Yeah.
But a massive thank you there to the Director General of the National Transport and Safety Authority, that's Nashon Kondiwa. We're now moving into our conversation around the National Infrastructure Fund. That's what we're going to be breaking down over the next hour.
Yep.
We're joined in studio by Molo MP,